Hello, welcome to my presentation on public administration theories. I am Julie Guajardo. I'm going to be really focusing on speaking about Henry Thaler's 14 Principles of Management. The principles that I'm going to be covering are order, unity of direction, stability of tenure, and then a concept that I think needs to be revamped or changed, which is centralization. And I'm going to be talking about how these principles are relevant today and provide you some examples of how I see them used in my current role. Henry Thaler is known as the father of administration, and he came up with these 14 principles of management. And we're not going to go over all of the principles. As I said before, we're just going to really focus on 3 principles. And so the first principle that we're going to be focusing on today is order. And when I think of order, he's referring to this as having the necessary tools in order to get the job done. And so one of the things that comes to mind for me in my current role is whenever I go out to see a client, I have to document the service that I provided. And so we have to document that in an electronic health record. And the electronic health record sometimes isn't the most user-friendly and crashes on us and we lose our work. And so sometimes we feel as though we are not equipped to be able to get the job done. We have another electronic record that we utilize that is actually very user-friendly and we don't have any issues with it. But obviously when you're talking about order and making sure that individuals have the proper tools necessary to get their job done, it's essential for productivity and for the workflow and for the overall operation of the organization. And so I think that that's something that's very important that we see today. And then the second one that I wanted to touch on was the unity of direction. And so what this talks about is really kind of what are the procedures that are in place that we follow on a day-to-day basis. And so for me, I work in crisis, and so I'm constantly out in the community responding to crisis situations. And although each situation that we go into is different and we have to adapt to each situation, there are certain prescribed policies and procedures that we do need to follow. Certain assessments that we follow and rating scales that we need to adhere to in order to ensure that the individual is going to be safe, the family is going to be safe, and the community is going to be safe. And so no matter where we are, no matter who we're dealing with, we're still going to follow through with those policies and procedures. And then after we provide our service, then it's essential that we go and we document that service so that there is proof that the service was indeed happened, and then as well as for billing purposes and for continuity of care. And then the third one that I wanted to touch on was the stability of tenure. I feel like this is really a hot button topic when it comes to management in organizations, and that really is turnover rate. I feel like most managers are constantly racking their brain to figure out, how can we ensure that we have low turnover, why are people leaving, what can we do differently. And if they're not asking those questions, they should be, because when turnover is high, morale decreases. And so it is in everyone's best interest to try and keep people around for the long haul. It creates a sense of stability and balance within the agency, and when one person leaves, it really does throw off the equilibrium, and causes a lot of tension sometimes, and added work to other employees. So I think that these 3 concepts out of his 14 concepts are key, and very relevant today. I really do feel like almost all of his concepts are very relevant today and can be utilized in many different aspects. And then the concept that I wanted to touch on that I feel like can be revamped would be his concept of centralization. And what that really means is kind of that top-down leadership. And he referred to the opposite of that as decentralization. So I firmly believe that it's really important to have not only top-down but also bottom-up leadership, where you're involving middle management, you're maybe even involving people on the ground level day to day that are working in the trenches. And the reason is because oftentimes at the top you're very removed from what's going on the ground, and sometimes people at the top have not really even had direct service experience, or they haven't been in direct service for quite some time. And so I'm very passionate about taking my direct service experience and translating that into management, while continuing to always try and stay connected to the ground, not forget where I came from. Make sure that I'm talking to the people that are in the trenches, because they truly know kind of what's working and what's not working. And so this is more of a collaborative effort, that decentralization. And what he really focused on was centralization, that top-down leadership. And I think that's a thing of the past, and needs to definitely be revamped. So that's it for my presentation. I hope you guys enjoyed. Have a wonderful evening.